Hi, everyone. Episode 18 of Getting Everyone Moving by Palms of Pines Parasports. Today, we have a really cool guest. This is Jenifer. Hey, Trey.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So let's start off by you telling us, how did you get into adaptive sports?
Yeah, so I actually started sports at the age of 4 when my father had reached out to a team outside of D.C. I initially started with track and then progressed into basketball as well as like a cross trainer. And then it took off from there. You know, I spent 8 years in the DC area playing track and basketball, and then I took a couple years off, wrestled in high school, and then I went back to college, and that's where I actually went to Edinboro University of Pennsylvania to play. So, yeah.
Did you ever feel that, you couldn't do something, or did you always have a lot of support in your life that kind of, pushed you a bit?
Yeah, I would definitely say, I mean, I think there's always a point in time where like you're at some point in your life and you're like, well, I can and can't do this. But I think my supportive system is actually the reason why I have the same mentality that I do now. You know, growing up with 3 brothers and 3 sisters, you have that competitive environment in the household, scrapping, fighting, doing what you need to do to be that alpha athlete is what we say, and I just think that, scratching and clawing with my brothers and sisters and them not taking it lightly on me gave me that same kind of mindset that I go into and what I use now in the games that we play today.
So were you always, did your brothers and sisters always include you and stuff? How, like when you went out to play basketball, so you'd be in your sport chair playing, or how did that work?
So it was more so in the house, and that's actually what pushed my dad to kind of get me into sports. So, initially, we're in the house wrestling around, having a fun time, even outside, still having a good time. But then when, team sports came around, my brothers were playing football, sisters cheerleading, doing dance and different things like that. I wasn't in those same sports. So I was just the spectating brother at that point. And at that point, my dad was like, we need to get you into your own sport. And, a team out of Washington, D.C. was like, hey, we have adaptive sports. And this was the first time that I ever traveled outside of the state of Maryland at that point. So I was excited for that. And then, to go from that, being excited to leave the state of Maryland to being able to play on different continents and different countries is just been a blessing to have.
So we're going to get into that. So you went to Edinboro, and was that, that was really competitive for you, I would think.
Oh, definitely. Because I think our collegiate system is in the NWBA, the National Wheelchair Basketball Association, is a pipeline to getting those athletes ready and prepared to play at the next level on Team USA. I think that you play against the best, beat the best, to try to be the best, right? So at the end of the day, I think that, my time at Edinboro, playing against, the different teammates that I have, I played against Matt, Brian, Steve, Nate, I played against all the teammates that I'm playing with now. It's just, it comes full circle. In college, they were my competitors, and now they're my teammates who I rely on to get us to that next level.
What when you went to college, I assume that was the first time that you kind of lived away from home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of adjustments did you have to make when you went away?
Well, so I got a funny story. So when I originally was recruited to go to Edinboro, Jim Glatch gives me a call. He's like, hey, do you want to come to Edinboro? I was like, sure, I would love to be a student athlete. One of my questions was, how much snow do you get up there? I'm in Maryland. It gets cold, but it doesn't get too cold. It snows, but it doesn't snow too hard. And he goes on the phone and he goes, we don't get that much snow, and I was like, okay, no problem. Man, I got up there. It started snowing, no joke, on October 31st. So it was Halloween. It started snowing. It doesn't stop snowing until like March. And it was one of the hardest things I had to deal with there, because I was just like, man, I'm not used to all the snow, but you know what? It was the brotherhood that was there that I love being a part of, guys that I still talk to today. And I graduated in 2011, is that brotherhood, training with these guys day in and day out, going to battle with these guys in games. It's something that you can't trade off. So while, yeah, the snow was one of those things where it was like, man, I'm not ready for this. But the outcome and being able to play with those guys is just an experience I can't trade.
That's great. So, I'm from California, and I went to grad school in Boston at Boston College. And I remember in October, there were like a few snowflakes falling down. And I had this big down puffy jacket on, and my friend from New York, right? He's just in a vest, like, what are you doing, dude? Huh?
Yeah. So my significant other, she is from Buffalo, New York, and she will still walk out in shorts and a t-shirt while I'm in a big poofy jacket. So yeah, I definitely get you on that one.
How do you, one of the things that I think we can really do a lot more of in the US is get more collegiate level adaptive sport programs. I mean, there's not a lot of them, right? I mean, there's really, in California, there's only one school, San Diego State, that's doing anything. I mean, how do we do that? How do we get more adaptive sports at the collegiate level?
I think it's an awareness, bringing awareness from being able to understand that, this isn't just a sport of we like to go out here and play basketball. This is the hobby for this. This is a lifestyle for us. These people that you see in March Madness at the University of Duke, right? And you see all these kids train year round to prepare for the tournament championship of a lifetime. And we're doing the same thing. We're doing everything we can to get there. And so we're trying to change that stigma for people to look at us as, athletes, athletes first, instead of looking at the disabled part of it. And I think that one of the things that we can do by doing that is just showing, our ability. And I think that's something that the Paralympic does. It gives us a platform to show everyone, what we're capable of, and, the pipeline that we have for our children that are coming up in that same program. Because me, I came up through this program at youth. So it's something that I hold near and dear to myself. So bringing awareness to the sport, allowing people to see it. And so when they see it, they want to get involved and getting these, programs started in their communities at their universities.
Okay. So Trey, I mean, you're an elite athlete. You participated in a number of sports. What kind of training regimen, have you used for the various sports that you participated in? Yeah,
so for us now, currently, we are, even within the pandemic that we're currently in, we're still getting in, 3 days of lifting, 2 days of cardio, and that's on the side, along with trying to get into a gym, because we know gym access is very skewed. Try to get in a gym as much as possible. I try to get there anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week as well. So we're getting it in when we can. And when I would say during a normal year or a normal time without the pandemic going on, we would definitely be lifting 3 days a week, cardio 3 days a week, in the gym 6 to 7 days a week.
And can you talk about some of your experiences as a Paralympian? I mean, what does that feel like? I mean, it must be.
It's something that's hard to describe, and I'll explain why, right? Because when you were growing up as a kid, you watch, Olympians, they go up there on the podium, and then like they're crying, they're emotional. And when I was younger, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. They're sitting here, they're crying. They just won. What are you crying about? You should be happy. And my first time on the Paralympic stage, I was able to win a bronze medal, and a lot of us felt like, our job wasn't done. So the next cycle in 2016, we brought home the gold, and, we're so happy. We're jumping for joy. They line us up to bring us out for the, to get our medals in the national anthem, and they start raising our flag. And I'm like, oh man, like that's when it hits you. And I was like, I understand now. I was like, and I can't cry. I was like, you bet not cry. And so I'm looking at it, and it's all of those emotions of, the 8 years that we put into this, the years before that, the sacrifice that, our families have to go through, missing first words, walking of our children, missing birthdays, anniversaries. People don't see that. And when you finally accomplish that ultimate goal, it's like, it's almost like a sign of relief, but it's also enjoyment that can't be described.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just incredible. What was it when you did wrestling? I want to go back to that. Are you still doing wrestling?
No, I'm not. So I only wrestled 2 years in high school.
And you were wrestling against able-bodied athletes then?
Correct.
And what was that like? How did those able-bodied athletes kind of approach you? Was there any difference at all, do you think? Or
I think that like a lot of the guys tried to like get down and wrestle me opposed to standing up. So my first year wrestling, I went 17 and 18. I lost quite a few matches, 18 matches I lost. I finished sixth in our school's district. And then, so I started working with my wrestling coach in that off season and preparing. So when people did adjust and drop down to my level, that I could use my speed on the outside to go for takedowns and different moves that we can use in that standpoint. So, we refined some things, we worked on some things, tweaked on some things. So that next year, my senior year, when I wrestled, I went 32-8, and I ended up third in the state of Maryland at the 103 weight class. And what was crazy was that my first year when I was doing all the losing, right, everyone was like, you're an inspiration and this, that, and the fifth. And I was like, thank you. But the next year when I started winning, right, that's when people started coming out of the woodworks being like, well, Treyvon doesn't have legs, so he shouldn't be wrestling at 103. We should be throwing weight that he should have on his legs. So he should be wrestling like 165. And I was like, where was this when I was losing, when people were pinning me? My first match ended in like 6 seconds, right? No one said anything then. But it's just one of those things that it's a milestone in your lifetime where you see it, you learn from it, and then you can use it going forward, because that's what I used to motivate me, especially when I went out there to wrestle again the next week and the week after.
And so you've been an athlete since you were 4, probably 3. Yeah, probably 2. You probably just keep being an athlete, man. What are, I always, when I coach athletes, I always say, there are life lessons, right, that you can learn from playing sport. So what are some of those major lessons that you've learned from, being an athlete? I mean, your whole life.
Yeah, I think one of the is definitely the determination that you have to accomplishing your the goal. Your drive that you have. You have to figure out what makes you happy and what makes you go for what you want. For me, I am a competitive individual. I love to win. I hate to lose. And we can have like a tic-tac-toe game going on right now. If you beat me 9 times, best believe I'm coming back for a 10th time. We're not going to go until I continue winning. And that's just the environment that I've been in, again, right? So Laura, she's the same way. She's competitive. My brothers and sisters, they're the same way. The people that I play with on Team USA, they're the same way. And I think that it's a contagious kind of mentality going about it. You love to win, you hate to lose, and it's one of those things that I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm not winning, I need to go back to the drawing board and do it again. We've had to cut out certain board games in our household because they have gotten pretty heated. So like that's how competitive we get, and I think that's what that is.
Sounds like my dad and me when we play Scrabble. Oh gosh, I don't want to play.
That is the board. That is the board game. That is actually the board game that we are not allowed to play in this household.
Oh, that's too funny. How do you think, that we create more inclusion in the society? I mean, in general, we've come through a difficult time. Of course, last year was really hard. But how do we do that? I mean, what's your kind of thoughts on, how do we create more inclusion?
So I want to start by saying that I think that the United States, from a global standpoint, we are leaps and bounds ahead of many different countries. So like, especially with the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, it helps a lot of individuals with disabilities. But with that said, there's so much more room to grow. I think that we try to put disabled individuals in one sort of bottle and say that we're going to form fit these rules and regulations all to you. And it took someone on the outside looking in and being like, okay, so this is an issue, right? So again, that awareness standpoint of it. But we also need to learn to adapt and adjust. As you know, we've seen different rules and regulations back in the day didn't help us then. They help us now, but that doesn't mean that that's going to help us in the future. And I think that it's very important for us to continue to reassess the things that we need. And I also think that we need to continue hearing from those individuals with disabilities, because I think it boggles my mind that we have people making these regulations that are able-bodied. You know, how are you supposed to understand what we need, what we go through, if you're not talking with us and we're not those ones making those rules? And so I think there needs to be more of a dialect between individuals with disabilities. And I know that's difficult because you can't cover all, but it would be nice to see those things happen.
Yeah, okay. Where do you see yourself in, say, 10 years? Where would you like to be? I mean, career, you know, family, the whole thing.
So yeah, so I mean, I try to live in the moment as much as I can, but like if we're talking 10-year goal, I want to, you know, be cheering on my children or whatever they're doing, whatever their, you know, successes that they want to be in. Because you know, I have 2 kids, one's 5, one's like, what is he, like 17 months now? So like I got my hands full now, running around having a good time with them. But I also want to be able to start giving back in that 10-year period, because, you know, I would not be here today if it wasn't for the different sacrifices people made for me, you know, the things that other people believed in me. And I want to be able to give those same opportunities to people that came from different or the same backgrounds that I came from. Again, like I said before, you know, I wouldn't imagine, you know, leaving the state of Maryland or the little county that I lived in. And this sport has given me the opportunity to travel to places that is just phenomenal. It's given me a degree where, you know, I'm the first one in my family to have a college degree. So like, again, like it's given me these different opportunities and these are different accomplishments that, you know, having that degree on the wall is great. But it's, you know, being able to say, you know, I'm the first one in my family to do it. Now you can do it too. Here are the resources for you to do it too. So I'm looking forward to getting involved with the next generation and, you know, molding the minds of those future leaders that we're going to have.
What are some of the places that you've traveled to, and which places have you liked the best? Tell us a couple of stories.
Oh yeah, so I played professional basketball internationally for 2 years, and again, this is coming from, we were in Edinboro, so in Edinboro in the snow belt, and then we go from there to the south of France, and we spend 9 months down there. I mean,
Wow.
from our villa, you could see the beach. You could throw a rock and it would reach the beach from right where we were staying. So we wake up to that every morning. And I mean, it was awesome because all I had to do was focus on basketball at that point. The area was awesome. The people were awesome. We still have friends that are over there that we still have contact with now. I mean, it's just, that environment was awesome. So that right there is number 2 on my list. I love France just because I spent a lot of time there. Number 1, of course, would be Rio. This is where we won a gold medal. It was phenomenal. And here's like a quick story. So one day we have the day off, going into the medaling rounds, I believe we were, and it was a rainy, cloudy day. And, you know, they were like, hey, listen, some of us are going up to the Christ Redeemer. The tour guide was like, there's no sense of us driving up there because it's going to be cloudy. You're not going to be able to see anything when you get up there. So we're like, you know what, we're going to take a shot in the dark. A couple of us went, some of the coaches went as well. Long drive, I think it was like 2-3 hours maybe to get up there. We get up there and they were right, cloudy. All you see is the lights bouncing off the clouds. And then out of nowhere, like, I mean, out of nowhere, it was like this big wind came in, swoosh all the clouds away. And I mean, it was a clear shot of the Christ Redeemer. We're out there, we're the only ones up there, because again, right, no one else would want to go up there if you're not seeing anything. And it was a good like 15, 20 minutes. And then those clouds rolled back in, covered it up, and we ended up leaving. And I was like, that was something that was phenomenal. We were there to actually experience that. And it was just awesome to see and to be a part of. But I think one of the things that people have a common misconception about is that when we travel to these different places, like I've been to South Korea, I've been to France, Peru, Guadalajara, Mexico. I've been to all these different places, but like when we're there to do a job, right? So like when we go there, it's not like sightseeing. We're able to go out there, but like we're there to do our job, and then all the other stuff can come afterwards. So if I had to say that, that's my order. But yeah, I love the places we've been to.
That is so terrific. Why don't we have professional wheelchair basketball in the United States? How do we get that going?
I think that there is, we have to find someone to start a market for it. I mean, we're still in the United States struggling to find a way to have inclusion on so many different levels, I think. And again, right, to say that like we are at a good place in the United States, it's just that we're not where we need to be. I can't stress that enough. But, when you look at different things with, equality in pay, for different genders, or equal opportunities for individuals with disabilities to be able to work, just to be able to make that slight accommodation so people can work a 9 to 5 in certain situations. We're still fighting for those different equalities. So I think that like once we are able to kind of iron those things out and find a market for us to be able to play in the United States, I think that it would be possible.
Trey, as we kind of get to the end of this segment, I mean, what do you say to people, who might have a disability, who, just are feeling really down? And I mean, how do you motivate people, to get out and give it a shot, play?
Yeah, I think that you have to be able to encourage them from the understanding of like, okay, it's not over. Like we have not reached the end point. And I understand that and as motivators, we need to understand that everyone's timeline is different, right? Just because we were able to excel in our timeline doesn't mean everyone else will. But we also need to be able to show them that, life isn't over, right? I still drive my own vehicle. I still own my own vehicle. That doesn't mean that just because you're disabled, you're going to be stuck in relying on other people. I still go to a store and shop. Yes, it might be hard to get some things up on the top, but we can work through that. Like life is not over being disabled or acquiring a disability. And then like just defining different outlets, because I think at the end of the day, we're still human beings, right? That's one thing that you can't change is our mindset. Like, I had someone look at me and say, I am just happy that you're not in a nursing home. And I was like, so should my mindset be I should be in a nursing home because I have no legs? No, that's not the mindset I was born with. We're human beings. We're born with, hey, you can do this, you can do that. And I think that different mindsets sets us apart. So establishing that mindset of you can do what you put your mind to, you will do what you put your mind to. So I think that that's something that we'll see.
Trey, this has been just terrific. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Okay.